Wait a sec. I know I've seen that before. But where? I can't remember.
Welcome to MojoPlays. Today, we're looking at 10 forgotten Final Fantasy games. For a franchise that has spanned over 3 decades, there's more than a few titles that manage to slip through the cracks and get overlooked by even the most diehard of fans. Got a Final Fantasy game we forgot about? Tell us about it and your favorite Final Fantasy game down in the comments. Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Picked Logica Final Fantasy. The only entry on our list to not make it outside of Japan, Picked Logica Final Fantasy is a puzzle fighting game originally released for mobile before being ported to the 3DS. Pulling characters from the franchise's storied history, pixel versions of iconic characters like Cloud, Vivi, and Riku, among others, battle monsters as you build up their attacks by solving the various Sudoku-like puzzles. The faster you're able to solve the puzzles, the stronger your attacks. With currently no plans to release the game outside of Japan, and online servers for the mobile versions being shut down in 2018, this seems like an experiment that will forever be lost to time. Final Fantasy Mythic Quest. Renaming this game Final Fantasy Baby's First RPG wouldn't be the most inaccurate way to describe this forgotten entry in the Final Fantasy pantheon. In an attempt to help boost sales of its RPGs in the West, Square decided that their RPGs were too complex for Western audiences and decided to develop a game whose sole purpose was to teach newcomers how to play RPGs. To say it spectacularly backfired would be an understatement. The game essentially played itself, with your NPC companions handling most of the heavy lifting during battles. Gone were the customization options of other titles, as well as wide open areas to explore, with the game not only being incredibly linear, but spelling out its entire story in the opening crawl. Square learned its lesson, and honestly, without Mythic Quest, we wouldn't have seen Western releases of Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, or Final Fantasy VI. Final Fantasy: The Crystal Chronicles – Echoes of Time.
Well, kid, you made it through the test. I guess that proves you know your stuff.
The Crystal Chronicles series of games began life on the GameCube with cross-play enabled between GameCube and Game Boy Advance, and while the series didn't quite make the impact Nintendo or Square Enix had intended, it gained enough of a following that the series was able to continue onto the Wii and DS, once again allowing crossplay. In a rare instance, the DS title was actually the superior version, with the Wii port suffering from unintuitive controls that forced players to use the Wii pointer for what should be quick swapping between characters and abilities. As with most of the Crystal Chronicles titles, this game is far more suited for playing with friends, but considering how easily these games are overshadowed by their big cousins on more modern hardware, it's easy to see why most of these entries are forgotten entirely.
I'll never get used to this coming back from the dead business.
Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. While not a direct sequel nor a remake, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance still managed to bring the deep strategic gameplay the series is known for, now on the go. The tactical gameplay translated surprisingly well to Nintendo's handheld, and the beautifully detailed sprites popped off the screen. Square went all in on Tactics Advance, even releasing Tactics Advance exclusive merchandise alongside the game. The game was very well received, as well as a commercial success, spawning a sequel on the Nintendo DS in Final Fantasy Tactics A2 Grimoire of the Rift, which was also very well received. The main issue holding this game back from mainstream appeal is the hardware it's seemingly trapped on. While it was re-released on the Wii U Virtual Console in 2016, there doesn't seem to be any plans to port the game any further, locking it as a relic of its time. Dissidia Final Fantasy.
We've arrived.
The others must be here already. Let's go.
Originally only released on PSP before subsequent entries made the jump to modern consoles, Dissidia Final Fantasy is a celebration of the decades-long series and pure fanfare for those who've been with the series throughout its numerous incarnations. Recruiting heroes and villains from the entire catalog of past titles, many of whom are voiced for the first time here.
Fine, whatever. I'll just shut up and watch you do your thing, okay? Just get on with the showing me that you can actually put up a fight part already!
The love and attention to detail on display here makes it feel like this game was made by fans for fans. With a fast-paced and surprisingly deep combat system, fans of the more modern real-time combat systems of recent releases will definitely feel right at home here. However, despite multiple re-releases and even sequels, most of the hype for the series died down quickly after each new release, despite the series' many dedicated players.
Incredible! That's the most fun I've had in minutes!
Final Fantasy Explorers. Customization is the main draw of Final Fantasy Explorers. Not only can you completely customize your character down to even wearing iconic series favorite costumes from games past, you can even customize the battlefield in which you battle each monster encounter. Unfortunately, giving players all the freedom they could want isn't the only thing necessary to keep a game fun and engaging. With a barely there narrative and an open world that isn't really all that open to explore, Final Fantasy Explorers had a lot of great ideas that it wasn't able to fully capitalize on, whether due to overambition or hardware limitation. Playing the game with up to 3 friends in co-ops keeps the game entertaining, as well as the ability to create your own creatures to follow and battle alongside you, but none of this was enough to keep Explorers from fading into obscurity. Final Fantasy: The Four Heroes of Light. Following closer to the established formula of the older Final Fantasy titles, including the return of the job system, The Four Heroes of Light is an important title for handheld RPG fans due to its creation and success leading directly into the development of the Bravely Default series, which borrowed many of the same features and game mechanics first established in The Four Heroes of Light. The game's beautiful storybook art style and new boost system kept battles and exploration fresh over its lengthy campaign as players guided the titular 4 heroes in a quest to end a curse plaguing their hometown. The game was well received and a moderate commercial success, and while a sequel was in the planning stages, much of that was folded into the aforementioned Bravely Default series, which is still going strong today. Final Fantasy Type 0 HD.
Still have a ways to go.
Originally only released in Japan on the PSP, Type 0 got another chance with the HD release on PS4 and Xbox One. Type 0 skews closer to a Persona game than a Final Fantasy one, with players needing to juggle time between classes and missions, as well as their interpersonal relationships with their fellow students and NPCs. The world of Type 0 was gritty and battle-worn, filled with mechanized war machines of death. Combat was fast and engaging, and the ability to swap out multiple playable characters added a strategic level to battles. Unfortunately, this title was released in the looming shadow of the upcoming mainline entry Final Fantasy XV, and had it not been for the playable Final Fantasy XV demo pre-packaged with Type 0, this game might have flown under many fans' radars entirely.
This sucks. Same old routine. Try something new.
Final Fantasy XII: Revenant Wings. Final Fantasy X and XIII weren't the only entries to receive direct sequels, but with Final Fantasy XII: Revenant Wings releasing only on the Nintendo DS, it's easy to see why it was overlooked. At the time of release, Final Fantasy XII was only playable on the PS2, so a direct sequel on not only an entirely different console, but a handheld severely limited the game's exposure. That wasn't the only change to the formula established by the predecessor either. Revenant Wings was a real-time strategy title, following closer to Final Fantasy Tactics than the active time battle system of other mainline titles at the time. The game once again follows Vaughn, who now commands his own pirate ship, and is set on a mission he and company accidentally fell into. The game reviewed well, but with much of the fanbase playing the main game on consoles, this title mostly went completely unnoticed by even diehard fans. World of Final Fantasy.
We
sure this thing's safe?
Looks like a one-way ticket to, well, you know.
You know I hate that kind of...
Your tickets.
Calling World of Final Fantasy a love letter to the series is probably the best description and compliment you could give to this title. One of the more recent releases on our list, besides the enhanced version Maxima being released only 2 years after the initial game, World of Final Fantasy came and went without leaving much of an impact. Following twins Lan and Rain, the pair traverse their world collecting monsters, here called mirages, to use in battle a la Pokemon, but also have the ability to call forth not only summons from the series' history, but also many of the franchise's most well-known heroes, in cute chibi form no less. The game scored mostly positive reviews and was a moderate commercial success, but quickly faded into many gamers' backlog.
Okay.
That's not good.
Do you agree with our picks? Don't forget to stick around and check out our other videos on MojoPlays.